The Mediterranean sun beat down mercilessly on the overcrowded refugee boat as Captain Marcus Rodriguez guided his Coast Guard vessel closer to the distressed craft. The radio crackled with urgent communications from headquarters, but Marcus kept his focus on the 100-plus souls desperately waving from the listing vessel. This was his 14th rescue operation this month, and the sight never got easier. Among the sea of faces, a small figure caught his attention. A girl, no more than 8 years old, sat perfectly still while chaos erupted around her. Her dark hair was matted with salt water, her clothes torn and faded, but her eyes held an unusual calmness that seemed almost unnatural for someone her age in such circumstances. "Rodriguez, we need to move fast," called out Lieutenant Thompson, his second in command. "That boat's taking on water faster than we anticipated." Marcus nodded, directing his crew to begin the rescue procedures. The standard protocol was always the same: children and elderly first, then women, finally the men. As his team deployed the rescue rafts, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about this particular operation. The little girl remained motionless as adults around her pushed and shoved, desperate to reach the safety of the Coast Guard vessel. When it was finally her turn, she walked calmly to the edge of the boat and allowed herself to be lifted onto the rescue raft without so much as a whimper. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Marcus asked gently as she was brought aboard his ship. She looked up at him with those eerily calm eyes and said nothing. The medic who examined her confirmed she was physically unharmed but appeared to be in shock. "Selective mutism," Dr. Patricia Wells, the ship's medical officer, explained quietly to Marcus. "It's common in traumatized children. She might not speak for days, weeks, or even months." Marcus nodded, watching as the girl was given a blanket and a cup of warm soup. She accepted both without acknowledgement, sitting cross-legged on the deck as if she were in her own living room rather than on a military vessel in the middle of the Mediterranean. As the rescue operation continued, Marcus found himself glancing repeatedly at the silent child. There was something about her demeanor that didn't fit the typical profile of a refugee. Her posture was too straight, her gaze too steady, her silence too controlled. Most traumatized children either clung desperately to the first adult who showed them kindness or retreated into visible distress. This girl did neither. Captain Thompson approached with a clipboard. "We've got 112 souls on board. The boat's completely taken on water now. We're heading back to port." Marcus acknowledged the report but continued watching the girl. She hadn't moved from her spot on the deck, hadn't touched her soup, hadn't even blinked more than necessary. Something was definitely not right, and after 20 years in the Coast Guard, Marcus had learned to trust his instincts. The overcrowded Coast Guard vessel began its journey back to the Italian port of Lampedusa, where the refugees would be processed and transferred to appropriate facilities. Marcus knew that within hours, this girl would disappear into the complex bureaucracy of the European refugee system, likely never to be seen again. But something told him that this particular rescue operation was far from over. The afternoon sun continued its relentless assault as Marcus made his way through the crowded deck, checking on the rescued passengers. Most were typical of what he'd seen countless times before. Exhausted families fleeing conflict, young men seeking economic opportunity, elderly couples clutching their few remaining possessions. The usual mix of hope and desperation that characterized every refugee boat. But the girl remained an anomaly. She sat in exactly the same position, the untouched soup now cold beside her, her eyes fixed on some distant point on the horizon. When other children cried or played or sought comfort from adults, she remained perfectly still. "Has she said anything?" Marcus asked Dr. Wells as they observed the child from across the deck. "Not a word. I've tried speaking to her in Arabic, Farsi, English, even some basic French. No response to any of them. She's either genuinely mute or—" Dr. Wells paused, considering her words carefully. "Or what?" "Or she's choosing not to respond. There's a difference between can't speak and won't speak, Captain. Her body language suggests the latter." Marcus frowned. In his experience, children who chose not to speak usually had very specific reasons for their silence. Sometimes it was fear, sometimes trauma, but occasionally it was something else entirely, something more calculated. As the ship approached the port, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Instead of allowing the girl to be processed with the other refugees, he would personally ensure she was given special attention. There were protocols for unaccompanied minors, additional safeguards and interviews that might reveal more about her background. "Thompson," he called to his second-in-command, "I want you to flag the young girl for additional screening. Something's not right about her." "Sir, she's just a kid, probably traumatized from the crossing." "Maybe, but I've seen thousands of traumatized children, and none of them have sat that still for 3 hours straight. Trust me on this one." Thompson nodded reluctantly and made a note on his clipboard. Marcus knew his subordinate thought he was being overly cautious, but 20 years of experience had taught him that the details others overlooked often proved to be the most significant. As the Coast Guard vessel docked at Lampedusa, Marcus watched the girl carefully. While other refugees showed visible relief at reaching safety, gathering their belongings and preparing to disembark, she remained motionless until specifically directed to move. Even then, she stood with military precision and walked in a perfectly straight line. "Dr. Wells," Marcus called out, "I want you to stay with the girl during processing. Don't let her out of your sight." The doctor raised an eyebrow but agreed. As the refugees were led off the ship in groups, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something crucial. The girl's behavior was too controlled, too purposeful for someone her age who had supposedly just fled a war zone on an overcrowded boat. Little did he know that his instincts were about to be proven dramatically correct. The processing center at Lampedusa was a maze of temporary buildings, chain-link fences, and overwhelmed staff members trying to handle the constant influx of refugees. Marcus had been through this facility countless times, but today he decided to personally oversee the girl's intake process rather than returning to his ship. She was assigned number 847 and placed in a small room with Dr. Wells and Isabella Martinez, a social worker who specialized in unaccompanied minors. Through the one-way observation window, Marcus watched as they attempted to establish basic communication with the child. "Can you tell us your name?" Isabella asked in English, then repeated the question in Arabic and Italian. The girl stared straight ahead, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Dr. Wells tried a different approach, showing the girl pictures of common objects and asking her to point to things she recognized. Again, no response. The girl's eyes never left a point on the wall directly in front of her. "This is highly unusual," Isabella whispered to Dr. Wells. "Even severely traumatized children usually show some reaction to stimuli. She's completely unresponsive." Marcus felt his suspicions growing stronger. The girl wasn't just traumatized. She was actively resisting their attempts at communication. But why would a child do that? After 2 hours of fruitless attempts, Isabella and Dr. Wells decided to take a break. They left the girl alone in the room, planning to try again later with a child psychologist. Marcus remained at the observation window, studying her behavior. The moment the door closed behind the two women, the girl's demeanor changed subtly. Her posture relaxed slightly, and she turned her head to look directly at the one-way mirror. For just a moment, Marcus could have sworn she was looking straight at him. Then she did something that made his blood run cold. She smiled. It wasn't the innocent smile of a child. It was calculated, knowing, almost predatory. The smile of someone who knew exactly what they were doing and was enjoying the game they were playing. Marcus immediately grabbed his radio. "I need additional security at the processing center. Room 847. Now." "Sir, is there a problem?" came the response. "I don't know yet, but something's very wrong with this situation." As Marcus waited for backup, he kept his eyes fixed on the girl. She had returned to her previous position, staring straight ahead with that same unnatural stillness. but he had seen that smile, and it told him everything he needed to know. This was no ordinary refugee child. This was someone playing a very dangerous game, and Marcus was determined to find out who she really was and what she wanted. The security team arrived within minutes, but Marcus instructed them to remain outside the room. He wanted to observe the girl's behavior a bit longer before making any moves. Something told him that rushing in would only cause her to retreat further into her act. Dr. Wells returned with a child psychologist named Dr. Elena Rossi, who specialized in trauma cases. Through the observation window, Marcus watched as Dr. Rossi attempted yet another approach, this time using play therapy techniques. She placed several toys on the table in front of the girl: a doll, some building blocks, crayons, and paper. Most children, even traumatized ones, would show at least some interest in these objects. But the girl continued to stare straight ahead, completely ignoring everything placed before her. This level of dissociation is extreme, Dr. Rossi murmured to Dr. Wells. Either she's experienced something so traumatic that she's completely shut down, or what? Dr. Wells prompted. Or she's faking it. But why would a child fake trauma? Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. If the girl was indeed faking her condition, then she was far more sophisticated than anyone had realized. But what could possibly motivate a child to engage in such elaborate deception? As the afternoon wore on, Marcus watched the girl carefully. She never moved unnecessarily, never showed any signs of discomfort despite sitting in the same position for hours, never even seemed to blink more than absolutely necessary. It was as if she were a machine programmed to appear human, but not quite getting all the details right. Captain Rodriguez. A voice interrupted his thoughts. Marcus turned to see Commander Patricia Hayes, his superior officer, approaching with a concerned expression. "Commander, I wasn't expecting you here. I got your report about the unusual refugee. What's your assessment?" Marcus chose his words carefully. "Something's not right about her, Commander. Her behavior is too controlled, too purposeful for a traumatized child." Commander Hayes looked through the observation window at the girl, who remained motionless. "She looks like any other refugee child to me, Captain. Perhaps you're reading too much into shock and trauma." "With respect, Commander, I've seen thousands of refugee children. This is different." "Different how?" Marcus struggled to articulate what he was feeling. "It's like she's performing, like she's playing a role rather than genuinely experiencing trauma." Commander Hayes studied the girl for a long moment. "Even if that's true, Captain, what would be the point? What could a child possibly gain from pretending to be a refugee?" It was a fair question, and Marcus didn't have a good answer. but his instincts were screaming that something was terribly wrong, and he'd learned to trust those instincts over the years. "I'd like to keep her under observation for a few more hours," Marcus said finally. "If I'm wrong, we'll process her normally, but if I'm right—" "If you're right, then we have a much bigger problem on our hands," Commander Hayes finished. "Fine, you have until tomorrow morning, but if you can't prove your suspicions by then, she gets processed like any other refugee." Marcus nodded, knowing he had less than 18 hours to uncover the truth about the mysterious girl who had appeared on that refugee boat. As evening approached, Marcus decided to try a different approach. Instead of observing from behind the one-way mirror, he would enter the room himself and attempt direct contact with the girl. Sometimes a change in environment or personnel could break through even the most stubborn defenses. Dr. Wells and Dr. Rossi had left for dinner, leaving the girl alone in the room once again. Marcus checked with the security team, then slowly opened the door and stepped inside. The girl didn't react to his presence, continuing to stare straight ahead as if he weren't there. Marcus pulled up a chair and sat down across from her, maintaining a comfortable distance. "Hello," he said quietly. "My name is Marcus. I'm the captain of the ship that rescued you today." No response. The girl's breathing remained steady and controlled, her posture unchanged. "I know you've been through a lot," Marcus continued, studying her face for any micro-expressions. "Being on that boat must have been terrifying, but you're safe now." Still nothing, but Marcus thought he detected the slightest tension in her shoulders, as if she were concentrating harder on maintaining her facade. "You know," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair, "I've been rescuing people from boats like yours for 20 years. I've seen children who were truly traumatized, and I've seen children who were just scared. But I've never seen a child who could sit perfectly still for 6 hours without showing any signs of discomfort." For the first time since he'd entered the room, the girl's eyes flickered slightly. It was barely perceptible, but Marcus caught it. "That's impressive self-control for someone your age," he continued. "Most adults can't maintain that level of discipline. It takes training, special training." Now he was certain he saw a reaction. The girl's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and her breathing became slightly more shallow. "The question is," Marcus said, his voice remaining gentle but his eyes sharp, "who trained you? And why?" The girl's mask slipped for just a moment, and Marcus saw something flash in her eyes. It wasn't fear or confusion. It was calculation. She was evaluating him, trying to determine how much he knew and how much of a threat he represented. "You're very good at this," Marcus acknowledged. "Whatever this is, but you're not perfect, and I'm very good at reading people." The girl's control finally cracked slightly. Her eyes moved to meet his, and for a moment, Marcus felt like he was looking into the eyes of someone much older than 8 years old, someone who had seen things no child should ever see. "There we go," Marcus said softly. "Now we're getting somewhere." The girl held his gaze for several seconds, and Marcus could practically see the wheels turning in her head. She was deciding whether to continue the charade or try a different approach. Finally, in a voice that was clear and steady, she spoke her first words since being rescued. "You're smarter than the others." Marcus felt a mixture of vindication and deep concern. His instincts had been correct, but now he faced an even bigger question. Who was this girl, and what was she really doing on that refugee boat? "What's your real name?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice calm and non-threatening. The girl considered the question for a long moment. "Names are not important," she said finally. "What matters is what I know." "And what do you know?" The girl smiled again, that same calculated expression Marcus had seen through the observation window. "I know things that could change the world, Captain Rodriguez. Things that powerful people would kill to possess." Marcus felt his blood pressure rising. "What kind of things?" "The kind of things that an 8-year-old girl shouldn't know," she replied. "But I'm not really 8 years old, am I?" "How old are you?" "Old enough to understand that my life is in danger. Old enough to know that the people who put me on that boat expected me to die during the crossing. Old enough to realize that you might be my only chance for survival." Marcus leaned forward. "Who put you on that boat?" "People who thought they were disposing of a problem," the girl said. "People who underestimated both my intelligence and my determination to survive." "What kind of problem?" The girl's eyes grew distant for a moment, as if she were remembering something painful. "I saw something I wasn't supposed to see, learned something I wasn't supposed to learn. And when they realized what I knew, they decided it would be easier to eliminate me than to deal with the consequences." "What did you learn?" The girl looked directly at Marcus, and her next words sent a chill through his entire body. "I learned how to end the world, Captain, and more importantly, I learned who has the power to do it." Marcus felt the room spinning slightly. Whatever he had expected, it wasn't this. "You're talking about weapons, nuclear weapons." "I'm talking about the codes, Captain. The launch codes. I know them all." Before Marcus could respond, the girl began reciting a series of numbers and letters in a steady, mechanical voice. The sequences were complex, obviously memorized with perfect precision, and they had the unmistakable structure of military authorization codes. Marcus felt his heart pounding as he realized the implications. If this girl was telling the truth, she possessed information that could indeed change the world. And if the wrong people found out she was alive and in custody, They would stop at nothing to either retrieve her or ensure her silence. "Stop," Marcus said urgently. "Don't say any more." But the girl continued, rattling off code after code with mechanical precision. Marcus realized with growing horror that she wasn't just reciting random sequences. These had the authentic structure and complexity of real nuclear launch codes. I said stop. Marcus stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. The girl finally stopped speaking and looked up at him calmly. "Now you understand why they wanted me dead, Captain. And now you understand why keeping me alive might be the most dangerous thing you've ever done." Marcus grabbed his radio with shaking hands. "Commander Hayes to room 847. Emergency. We have a code red situation." As he waited for his commander to arrive, Marcus stared at the girl who had just recited what appeared to be legitimate nuclear launch codes from memory. She sat perfectly still once again, that same unnatural calm she had displayed all day. But now Marcus understood that her stillness wasn't the result of trauma. It was the discipline of someone who had been trained to handle classified information, someone who understood that a single wrong word could trigger an international incident. "Who are you?" he whispered. The girl smiled that calculated smile again. "I'm someone who doesn't exist, Captain. At least, not officially. And until today, that's exactly how certain people wanted to keep it." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. In 20 years of Coast Guard service, he had never encountered anything like this. He had rescued refugees, stopped drug smugglers, and participated in countless humanitarian missions. But he had never found himself in possession of someone who claimed to know nuclear launch codes. "The people who put you on that boat," Marcus said, "they're going to realize you survived." "Eventually," the girl agreed. "But they'll assume I drowned with the others. That boat was supposed to sink before reaching any Coast Guard vessel. My survival was not part of their plan." "How do you know all this?" "Because I was there when they planned it," the girl said simply. "I heard everything. They thought I was just another piece of equipment to be disposed of. They forgot that equipment sometimes has ears." Commander Hayes burst through the door, followed by 2 security officers. "Captain, what's the situation?" Marcus looked at the girl, who had once again assumed her motionless pose. "Commander, I need to speak with you privately." "Is the child a threat?" "The child claims to possess classified information of the highest order," Marcus said carefully. "Information that could compromise national security if it fell into the wrong hands." Commander Hayes studied the girl, who appeared to be completely oblivious to their conversation. "Are you certain about this, Captain?" "She just recited what appeared to be authentic nuclear launch codes from memory," Marcus said quietly. multiple sequences with the correct structure and complexity. The commander's face paled. Are you telling me that we have a child in custody who knows active nuclear launch codes? That's exactly what I'm telling you, Commander. The implications began to sink in for everyone in the room. If the girl's claims were true, then she represented either the most valuable intelligence asset or the most dangerous security breach in recent history. We need to contact higher authorities immediately, Commander Hayes said. This is way above our pay grade. As the commander reached for his radio, the girl spoke again, her voice cutting through the tension in the room. You might want to be very careful about who you contact, Commander. The people who tried to kill me have allies everywhere. Make the wrong phone call, and you'll be signing all of our death warrants. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The situation was becoming more complex by the minute, and he was beginning to realize that rescuing this girl might have been the most dangerous thing he had ever done. But there was no turning back now. The girl was in their custody. She claimed to possess information that could threaten global security, and somewhere out there, powerful people believed she was dead. Marcus had a feeling that their assumption would not remain unchallenged for long. The room fell silent as everyone processed the girl's warning. Commander Hayes slowly lowered his radio, his expression grim. "Explain," he said to the girl. "The people who put me on that boat have resources in multiple governments," the girl said calmly. "They have contacts in intelligence agencies, military commands, and civilian administrations. If you make the wrong call, you'll be alerting them to my survival before you can secure proper protection." "And how exactly would you know about their network?" Commander Hayes asked skeptically. "Because I lived with them for 3 years," the girl replied. "I heard their conversations, saw their meetings, learned their protocols. They kept me close because they thought I was useful, and they spoke freely around me because they thought I was too young to understand the implications." Marcus felt his stomach churning. "You're talking about some kind of intelligence organization." "I'm talking about people who operate outside the normal channels of government," the girl said. "People who have access to information that even most military personnel don't possess. People who decided that the risk of keeping me alive outweighed the benefits of my continued existence." "What kind of benefits?" Commander Hayes demanded. The girl was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus could see her weighing her options. Finally, she spoke. "I have a perfect memory, Commander. Photographic recall of everything I see and hear. They used me to memorize information that was too sensitive to be written down or stored electronically." "Including nuclear launch codes," Marcus said, the pieces beginning to fall into place. "Among other things," the girl confirmed. Codes, protocols, contact information, operational details. I was a living database of classified information. Commander Hayes exchanged a look with Marcus, and when they decided you were too dangerous to keep alive, they created a plausible cover story, the girl said. A refugee boat carrying desperate people fleeing conflict. If it sank during the crossing, I would be just another casualty of human trafficking. No one would investigate further. But the boat didn't sink, Marcus pointed out. No, the girl agreed, because someone sabotaged their sabotage. Someone who knew what they were planning and decided to give me a chance to survive. Who? I don't know, the girl admitted. But whoever it was, they saved my life. And now it's up to you to decide what to do with that gift. Commander Hayes ran his hands through his hair, clearly overwhelmed by the situation. We need to verify your claims. If what you're saying is true, then we need to establish secure communication with the appropriate authorities. And if I'm lying, the girl asked, then you're the most sophisticated con artist I've ever encountered, Marcus said. But I don't think you're lying. The girl nodded approvingly. Your instincts are good, Captain. They're what kept you alive during your 20 years of service, and they're what led you to see through my performance today. So what do you propose we do? Commander Hayes asked. First, you need to establish a secure communication channel with someone you trust completely, the girl said. Someone who has the authority to handle classified information, but who operates outside the normal intelligence channels. Do you have someone in mind? The girl smiled. Actually, I do, but you're not going to like it. Marcus felt his apprehension growing. Why not? Because the person I'm thinking of is currently being held at a maximum security facility on charges of treason, the girl said. And the evidence against him was manufactured by the same people who tried to kill me. The implications of this revelation hit everyone in the room like a physical blow. If the girl was telling the truth, then not only was she in possession of highly classified information, but she might also be the key to proving the innocence of someone who had been wrongly accused of betraying his country. This is getting more complicated by the minute, Commander Hayes muttered. Commander, Marcus said, I think we need to consider the possibility that we're dealing with something much bigger than a simple refugee rescue. I think you're right, Captain, but the question is, what do we do about it? Before anyone could answer, the girl stood up for the first time since being rescued. Her movement was fluid and controlled, lacking the stiffness that would be expected from someone who had been sitting motionless for hours. What you do about it depends on whether you're willing to risk everything to do what's right, she said. Because that's what this is going to require. The people who tried to kill me won't give up easily. And once they realize I'm alive, They'll use every resource at their disposal to silence me permanently. And if we help you, then you'll be making enemies of some very powerful people, the girl said honestly. People who have the resources to make your lives very difficult. But you'll also be doing something that could save thousands of lives and prevent a catastrophic abuse of power. Marcus looked at Commander Hayes, who was clearly struggling with the decision. The safe course of action would be to process the girl as a normal refugee and let someone else deal with the potential consequences. But if she was telling the truth, then they had a moral obligation to protect her and ensure that the information she possessed was used for good rather than evil. "What's your real name?" Marcus asked the girl. "My real name is classified," she said, "but you can call me Anna. It's close enough to the truth." "Anna," Marcus repeated. "How do we know you're not just an elaborate plant sent to test our security protocols?" Anna's expression grew serious. "Because if I were a plant, Captain, I would have been extracted from this facility hours ago. The fact that I'm still here, still talking to you, means that I'm exactly who I claim to be. A girl who knows too much and has nowhere else to turn." Commander Hayes made his decision. "We're going to need to move you to a more secure location while we figure out how to handle this situation." "Agreed," Anna said. "But remember what I told you about making the wrong phone call. Every communication you make needs to be carefully considered." As the security team prepared to escort Anna to a more secure holding area, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were all walking into a trap. But whether the trap was set by Anna or by the people who had tried to kill her, he couldn't be sure. One thing was certain. Their quiet evening at the Refugee Processing Center had just become the most dangerous situation any of them had ever faced. The secure holding area was located in the basement of the processing center, originally designed to house dangerous individuals who posed a threat to other refugees. Anna was placed in a small but comfortable room with basic amenities, while armed guards were positioned outside the door. Commander Hayes had made the decision to limit access to information about Anna's presence to only essential personnel. Besides Marcus and himself, only Dr. Wells and two trusted security officers knew about the girl's claims. "I've been thinking about your suggestion regarding the person in the maximum security facility," Commander Hayes said to Anna through the intercom system. "Who are you talking about?" "Colonel James Mitchell," Anna replied without hesitation. "He's currently being held at Fort Leavenworth on charges of selling classified information to foreign agents." Marcus felt his blood run cold. He knew that name. Colonel Mitchell had been a highly decorated intelligence officer who had been arrested 6 months ago in what the media had called one of the most significant espionage cases in recent history. Colonel Mitchell was caught red-handed passing information to Russian agents, Commander Hayes said. The evidence against him was overwhelming. The evidence was fabricated, Anna said calmly. I know because I was there when it was created. The same people who tried to kill me are the ones who set up Colonel Mitchell. That's a very serious accusation, Marcus said. It's a very serious situation, Anna replied. Colonel Mitchell discovered what they were doing. He was investigating unauthorized access to nuclear launch codes and getting too close to the truth. So they decided to eliminate him by framing him for treason. And you witnessed this. I was in the room when they planned his downfall, Anna said. They used my photographic memory to help them create convincing fake evidence. They thought I was just a tool, but I understood exactly what they were doing. Commander Hayes paced back and forth in the observation room. Even if what you're saying is true, Colonel Mitchell is in federal custody. We can't just call him up and ask for help. No, Anna agreed. But you can contact his lawyer, Jennifer Walsh. She's been fighting to prove his innocence since the beginning, and she's been getting nowhere because she doesn't have access to the real evidence. And you have access to this evidence. I have something better, Anna said. I have first-hand knowledge of how it was fabricated. I can tell her exactly what to look for and where to find it. Marcus and Commander Hayes exchanged looks. The situation was becoming more complex by the hour, and they were being asked to make decisions that could have far-reaching consequences. Let's assume for a moment that you're telling the truth, Marcus said. What exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing that we work together to expose the truth, Anna said. You provide me with protection and secure communication channels, and I provide you with the information needed to bring down the people who tried to kill me and who framed Colonel Mitchell. And what happens to you when this is all over? Anna was quiet for a long moment. I honestly don't know, Captain. The life I had before doesn't exist anymore. The people who controlled me either want me dead or think I already am. I suppose I'll have to create a new life for myself. You're talking about witness protection, Commander Hayes said. I'm talking about starting over, Anna replied. But first, I need to make sure that the information I carry doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And that means stopping the people who tried to kill me before they can do more damage. Marcus felt a surge of protectiveness toward the girl. Despite her unusual maturity and the disturbing nature of her claims, she was still a child who had been put in an impossible situation by adults who should have protected her. Commander, Marcus said, I think we need to seriously consider helping her. I know, Commander Hayes replied. But we need to be absolutely certain that we're not being manipulated. The consequences of being wrong are too severe. Then test me, Anna said. having heard their conversation through the intercom. Ask me something that only someone with access to classified information would know. Something specific enough that I couldn't have guessed or researched. Commander Hayes thought for a moment. What was the code name for the joint training exercise between U.S. and Italian forces that took place last month? Operation Mediterranean Shield, Anna replied instantly. The exercise involved simulated submarine warfare scenarios and was designed to test rapid response capabilities in case of Russian aggression in the region. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. That information was classified, and he knew it was accurate because he had participated in the exercise himself. "How do you know about that?" he asked. "Because the people who controlled me were involved in planning it," Anna said. "They had access to NATO communications and were using that access to manipulate military exercises for their own purposes." "What purposes?" "They were testing response times and communication protocols," Anna explained. "They wanted to know how quickly Allied forces could coordinate in case of a real emergency. Information that would be very valuable to hostile nations." Commander Hayes sat down heavily in his chair. "If what you're saying is true, then we're dealing with a conspiracy that goes much deeper than we initially thought." "Yes," Anna agreed. "And the people involved have the resources and connections to make this entire facility disappear if they decide we're a threat." "What do you mean disappear?" Marcus asked. "I mean that everyone who has had contact with me could be eliminated," Anna said matter-of-factly. "Made to look like accidents, suicides, or terrorist attacks. These people don't leave loose ends." The room fell silent as everyone contemplated the implications. Marcus realized that by choosing to investigate Anna's claims, they had all potentially signed their own death warrants. But walking away was no longer an option. They knew too much, and Anna was depending on them for protection. "So what's our next move?" Marcus asked. "We contact Jennifer Walsh," Anna said. "But we do it carefully, using secure channels, and we prepare for the possibility that our lives are about to become much more complicated." Commander Hayes reached for his secure phone, then hesitated. "Are you absolutely certain about this, Anna? Once we make this call, there's no going back." "There's already no going back, Commander," Anna replied. "The moment Captain Rodriguez saw through my act, our fates became intertwined. Now we either work together to expose the truth, or we all become victims of the same people who tried to kill me." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. In a few hours, he had gone from conducting a routine refugee rescue to becoming involved in what appeared to be a massive conspiracy involving nuclear launch codes and government corruption. But looking at Anna through the observation window, he knew they had no choice. She was just a child, regardless of what she knew or who had used her. And protecting children was part of his oath as a Coast Guard officer. "Make the call, Commander," Marcus said. "Let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes." Commander Hayes nodded and began dialing the secure number for Jennifer Walsh's office. As the phone rang, Marcus couldn't help but wonder if they were about to become heroes or victims. Either way, there was no turning back now. The call to Jennifer Walsh took place in the early hours of the morning, when the processing center was at its quietest. Commander Hayes had chosen this time deliberately, hoping to minimize the risk of their conversation being intercepted or overheard. "Ms. Walsh, this is Commander Patricia Hayes of the U.S. Coast Guard. I'm calling regarding your client, Colonel James Mitchell." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Commander, it's 3 in the morning. Unless this is an emergency." "It is an emergency, Ms. Walsh. We have information that could be relevant to your client's case. Information that suggests he may have been framed." The silence that followed was longer this time. When Jennifer Walsh spoke again, her voice was sharp and alert. "What kind of information?" "The kind that I can't discuss over the phone," Commander Hayes replied. "But I can tell you that we have a witness who claims to have first-hand knowledge of how the evidence against Colonel Mitchell was fabricated." "A witness who?" "Someone who was present when the conspiracy was planned. Someone who has been hiding in plain sight until now." Jennifer Walsh's voice became cautious. "Commander, I've been working on this case for 6 months. I've followed every lead, investigated every possibility. If there was a witness to what you're describing, I would have found them by now." "Not necessarily," Commander Hayes said. "This witness was considered too insignificant to be a threat. The conspirators never imagined that their victim would survive long enough to tell their story." "What do you need from me?" "We need you to come to Lampedusa tonight, and we need you to come alone." "Commander, I can't just drop everything and fly to Italy based on a mysterious phone call. I need more information." Commander Hayes looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. "Ms. Walsh, your client discovered unauthorized access to nuclear launch codes. He was investigating a conspiracy involving high-level government officials and foreign agents. When he got too close to the truth, he was framed for treason to discredit him and end his investigation." The phone line was quiet for several long seconds. "How do you know about the nuclear codes?" Jennifer Walsh asked finally. "That information is classified." "Because our witness was used to memorize those codes," Commander Hayes said. "And when the conspirators decided the witness was too dangerous to keep alive, they tried to eliminate them. But their plan failed." "My God," Jennifer Walsh whispered. Are you telling me that someone tried to murder a witness in this case? I'm telling you that someone tried to murder a child who had been forced to memorize classified information, Commander Hayes said. A child who can provide testimony that would not only exonerate your client, but expose a conspiracy that threatens national security. A child, how old? Approximately 8 years old, though we're not entirely certain of her exact age. 8 years old, Jennifer Walsh repeated, her voice filled with horror. They used an 8-year-old child to memorize nuclear launch codes. Among other things, Commander Hayes confirmed. And when she became inconvenient, they put her on a refugee boat that was supposed to sink during the crossing. She was meant to die with the other passengers, just another casualty of human trafficking. But she survived. She survived because someone sabotaged their sabotage. Someone who knew what they were planning and gave her a chance to live. Jennifer Walsh was quiet for a long moment. Commander, if what you're telling me is true, then this is the breakthrough I've been praying for. But I need to verify this information before I can act on it. I understand your caution, Ms. Walsh, but time is not on our side. The people who tried to kill this child will eventually realize she survived. When they do, they'll come for her, and they'll come for anyone who has had contact with her, including you. Including me, Commander Hayes confirmed. That's why we need to move quickly. We need to get this information to the proper authorities before the conspirators can silence the witness permanently. What kind of timeline are we talking about? Hours, not days, Commander Hayes said. Maybe less. The child's survival wasn't part of their plan, which means they're operating without a contingency. But they're resourceful, and they have contacts everywhere. It won't take them long to figure out what happened. All right, Jennifer Walsh said after another pause. I'll be on the next flight to Italy. But Commander, if this turns out to be some kind of hoax or manipulation, I'll have you brought up on charges. I understand, Ms. Walsh, but I can assure you that this is no hoax. The child we're protecting has information that could change everything. After ending the call, Commander Hayes turned to Marcus. Well, we've committed ourselves now. Walsh will be here in approximately 12 hours. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Marcus asked. I think we're doing the only thing we can do, Commander Hayes replied. The alternative is to let a child be murdered and allow innocent people to remain in prison while the real conspirators continue their work. And if we're wrong, if Anna is not who she claims to be, then we'll face the consequences, Commander Hayes said. But my instincts tell me she's telling the truth, and your instincts led us to this point in the first place. As they prepared to update Anna on the developments, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. But whether the trap was set by Anna, by the people who had tried to kill her, or by circumstances beyond their control. He couldn't be sure. What he did know was that they had made a commitment to protect a child, and he intended to honor that commitment regardless of the personal cost. The next few hours would determine whether they were heroes or fools, but there was no turning back now. Anna listened to their report with the same calm composure she had displayed throughout the ordeal. When they finished explaining about the call to Jennifer Walsh, she nodded approvingly. "You made the right choice," she said. "Jennifer Walsh is one of the few people involved in this case who can't be bought or intimidated. She's been fighting for Colonel Mitchell because she genuinely believes in his innocence." "How do you know so much about her?" Marcus asked. "Because the people who framed Colonel Mitchell have been monitoring her progress," Anna replied. "They needed to know how close she was getting to the truth so they could adjust their strategy accordingly." "And how close has she gotten?" "Closer than they're comfortable with," Anna said, "but not close enough to be dangerous. Until now." Commander Hayes leaned forward. "Anna, I need you to be completely honest with me. Are there any other surprises we should know about? Any other complications that might arise?" Anna considered the question carefully. "There are always complications, Commander, but the biggest one is that the people who tried to kill me have contingency plans. When they realize I'm alive, they'll activate those plans." "What kind of contingency plans?" "They'll try to discredit me before I can testify," Anna said. "They'll claim I'm mentally unstable, that I'm a foreign agent, that I'm lying to get attention. They'll use every resource at their disposal to make sure no one believes my story. And if that doesn't work, then they'll try to eliminate everyone who has had contact with me," Anna said matter-of-factly. "They'll make it look like accidents or terrorist attacks. They're very good at making problems disappear." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "You're talking about multiple murders." "I'm talking about people who have already committed multiple murders," Anna corrected. "I'm not the first person they've tried to kill, and I won't be the last if they succeed in silencing me." "Who else have they killed?" "Other people who got too close to the truth," Anna said. "Investigators, journalists, whistleblowers. They've been operating for years, and they've left a trail of bodies behind them." Commander Hayes ran his hands through his hair. "We're going to need federal protection. FBI, maybe even witness protection." "The problem with federal protection is that we don't know who we can trust," Anna said. "The conspiracy involves people at high levels of government. Making the wrong contact could result in all of us being eliminated." "Then what do you suggest?" "We stick to the plan," Anna said. "We wait for Jennifer Walsh to arrive, and we provide her with the information she needs to prove Colonel Mitchell's innocence. Once that information is public, it becomes much harder for the conspirators to silence us. And if they try to eliminate us before Walsh arrives, then we fight, Anna said simply. We've come too far to back down now. As the morning wore on, Marcus found himself increasingly impressed by Anna's composure and strategic thinking. Despite her young age, she demonstrated a level of tactical awareness that would have been impressive in a trained military officer. But he also couldn't help but wonder what kind of life this child had lived to develop such capabilities. What had been done to her to create someone so young who could discuss murder and conspiracy with such clinical detachment? Anna, he said gently, what was your life like before you ended up on that boat? For the first time since revealing her true nature, Anna's composure cracked slightly. I don't think you want to know, Captain. Some things are better left in the past. Try me. Anna was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus could see her struggling with memories that were clearly painful. I was taken from my family when I was 5 years old, she said finally. The people who took me said I had special abilities that could be useful to their organization. What kind of abilities? Perfect memory, pattern recognition, the ability to analyze complex information quickly, Anna said. They trained me to be a living computer, capable of storing and retrieving classified information that was too sensitive to be recorded electronically. And your family? They were told I died in an accident, Anna said, her voice becoming smaller. I don't even know if they're still alive. Marcus felt his heart breaking for this child who had been robbed of her childhood and turned into a weapon by adults who should have protected her. We're going to find your family, Anna. Once this is over, we're going to reunite you with them. That's a nice thought, Captain, Anna said sadly. But I'm not the same person I was when I was taken. I've seen things and done things that no child should ever experience. I don't know if I can ever go back to being a normal little girl. You don't have to be normal, Marcus said. You just have to be safe, and we're going to make sure that happens. As they waited for Jennifer Walsh to arrive, Marcus reflected on how dramatically his life had changed in less than 24 hours. Yesterday, he had been a Coast Guard captain conducting routine refugee rescues. Today, he was protecting a child who could potentially expose a conspiracy involving nuclear launch codes and government corruption. But looking at Anna, he knew he had made the right choice. Regardless of the personal cost, he was going to see this through to the end. The sound of approaching helicopters interrupted his thoughts. Commander Hayes grabbed his radio and began coordinating with the incoming aircraft. Walsh is here, he announced, along with what appears to be a federal escort. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Federal escort. We didn't arrange for federal involvement. No, Commander Hayes said grimly. We didn't. Anna stood up immediately, her body tense with alertness. "Commander, you need to abort the meeting. If federal agents are involved, it means the conspiracy has been activated." "What do you mean?" "I mean that Jennifer Walsh has been compromised," Anna said urgently. "Either she's been coerced into cooperating with the conspirators, or she's been followed. Either way, we're walking into a trap." As the helicopters touched down outside the processing center, Marcus realized that their situation had just become much more dangerous. The people who had tried to kill Anna had found them, and they were about to face the full force of a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of government. "What do we do?" Marcus asked. "We run," Anna said simply, "and we hope we're fast enough to stay ahead of them." The evacuation of the processing center happened with military precision. Commander Hayes activated the facility's emergency protocols, which had been designed to handle terrorist attacks or other security threats. Within minutes, all non-essential personnel were being evacuated through the rear exits, while security teams took defensive positions. Anna had been moved to a secure communications room in the basement, where she was helping Marcus and Commander Hayes coordinate their escape. Despite the chaos erupting around them, she remained calm and focused, providing tactical advice with the expertise of someone far beyond her years. "The helicopters are carrying a full tactical team," she reported, monitoring the security feeds. "Military-grade equipment, advanced communications, professional coordination. These aren't regular federal agents." "Then who are they?" Marcus asked. "They're the cleanup crew," Anna said. "The people who get called in when the conspiracy needs to eliminate a problem permanently." "How many?" 12 operatives that I can see, plus support personnel. They're setting up a perimeter around the facility, which means they're planning to make sure no one gets out alive." Commander Hayes cursed under his breath. "We should have seen this coming. Walsh was monitored from the beginning." "It's not your fault, Commander," Anna said. "These people have been planning contingencies for years. They're very good at what they do." "Are we trapped?" "Not yet," Anna said, studying the security monitors. "But we will be if we don't move soon. They're still deploying their perimeter, which gives us a small window of opportunity." "What do you have in mind?" Anna pointed to one of the security feeds showing the facility's dock area. "There's a patrol boat tied up at the pier. If we can reach it, we can get out to sea before they complete their perimeter." "That's a long way from here," Marcus pointed out, "and we'd be completely exposed crossing the courtyard." "Yes," Anna agreed, "but it's our best option. The alternative is to wait here until they come for us." As if to emphasize her point, the lights in the communications room flickered and went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. "They're cutting power," Commander Hayes said. "Standard procedure for a facility assault." "Which means we have maybe 5 minutes before they breach the main entrance," Anna said. "We need to move now." Marcus grabbed his sidearm and checked the magazine. "I'll take point. Commander, you stay with Anna." "I can take care of myself, Captain," Anna said quietly. "I know you can, but you're still a child, and protecting children is part of my job." As they prepared to leave the communications room, Anna grabbed Marcus's arm. "Captain, there's something else you need to know. The people who are coming for us aren't just trying to silence me. They're trying to recover the information in my head." "What do you mean?" "They want to capture me alive if possible," Anna explained. "The nuclear launch codes I memorized are scheduled to be changed next week. If they can extract the current codes from my memory, they can use them before the change takes effect." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "Use them how?" "To launch a nuclear strike that would be blamed on a foreign government," Anna said. "They've been planning this for months. It's why they needed the codes in the first place." "My God," Commander Hayes whispered. "We're not just protecting a witness. We're trying to prevent a nuclear war." "Now you understand why they're willing to kill so many people to silence me," Anna said, "and why we can't let them succeed." The sound of explosions echoed through the facility as the tactical team began their assault. Marcus knew they had run out of time for discussion. "Let's go," he said, leading the way out of the communications room. As they made their way through the darkened corridors of the processing center, Marcus couldn't help but think about the magnitude of what they were facing. A child's life, the prevention of a nuclear war, the exposure of a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of government. All of it depended on their ability to reach that patrol boat and get out to sea before the tactical team could stop them. Behind them, the sounds of the assault grew louder as the attackers breached the main entrance. Marcus knew they had maybe 2 minutes before the facility would be completely overrun. "This way," he whispered, leading Anna and Commander Hayes toward the rear exit that would take them to the dock area. As they reached the exit, Marcus peered outside and saw the tactical team's perimeter was not yet complete. There was a gap in their coverage that would give them a chance to reach the boat. "Ready?" he asked. Anna nodded, her young face set with determination. "Ready." They burst through the exit and ran across the exposed courtyard, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the concrete walls. Behind them, shouts erupted as the tactical team spotted their escape attempt. Gunfire erupted around them as they ran, bullets striking the ground and walls nearby. Marcus felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that came with combat, but he had never been in a firefight where the stakes were so high. They reached the dock just as the tactical team rounded the corner of the building. Commander Hayes was first onto the patrol boat, immediately starting the engines while Marcus helped Anna aboard. "Get us out of here," Marcus shouted as more gunfire erupted from the shore. The patrol boat surged forward, its powerful engines propelling them away from the dock, just as the tactical team reached the water's edge. Marcus looked back to see the operatives raising their weapons, but they were already too far away for accurate small-arms fire. "We made it," Commander Hayes said, his voice filled with relief. "We survived the first wave," Anna corrected, "but they'll be coming after us. These people don't give up easily." As the patrol boat headed out to sea, Marcus realized that their escape was only the beginning. They had exposed themselves to the conspiracy, and there would be no safe harbor until the truth was revealed. But looking at Anna, who stood at the bow of the boat with her hair streaming in the wind, he knew they had made the right choice. Whatever the cost, they were going to see this through to the end. The Mediterranean stretched out before them, vast and apparently empty. But Marcus knew that somewhere out there, their enemies were already planning their next move. The patrol boat's radio crackled to life as they reached open water. "Coast Guard Patrol Boat 77, this is Lampedusa Control. You are ordered to return to port immediately." Commander Hayes looked at Marcus, who shook his head. "Don't respond," he said. "We can't trust anyone right now." "Coast Guard Patrol Boat 77, you are in violation of direct orders. Return to port immediately, or you will be considered hostile." Anna moved to the radio. "May I, Commander?" Hayes nodded and Anna picked up the microphone. "Lampedusa Control, this is Anna Mitchell. I'm sure you know who I am and why you want me back." There was a long pause before a different voice came over the radio. "Anna, this is Director Harrison. We need to talk." Anna's expression hardened. "Hello, Director. I was wondering when you'd surface. I assume you're the one who ordered the tactical team to eliminate me." "Anna, you're making a mistake. The people you're with are not who you think they are. They're going to use you for their own purposes." "The way you used me," Anna replied coldly. "At least they haven't tried to kill me yet." "The boat you were on was supposed to take you to safety," Director Harrison said. "The operation was compromised. We had to extract you, but the rescue went wrong." "You're lying," Anna said simply. "I heard you planning my elimination. I was in the room when you decided I was too dangerous to keep alive." "Anna, you're a child. You misunderstood what you heard. We were trying to protect you." "By putting me on a boat that was supposed to sink." Anna's voice remained steady, but Marcus could see the anger burning in her eyes. "By sabotaging the engine to ensure I would drown before reaching any Coast Guard vessel." "That's not what happened." Then explain why your tactical team just tried to kill Captain Rodriguez and Commander Hayes, Anna said. Explain why you sent a cleanup crew instead of coming to talk to me. Director Harrison's voice became more urgent. Anna, the people you're with are foreign agents. They're trying to extract you from the country. If you go with them, you'll be putting yourself in much greater danger. I'm already in the greatest danger possible, Anna replied. The danger of being murdered by the people who were supposed to protect me. Marcus took the microphone from Anna. Director Harrison, this is Captain Marcus Rodriguez. I want you to know that we have documented evidence of your conspiracy. If anything happens to us, that evidence will be released to the media and to international authorities. Captain Rodriguez, you're making a serious mistake. You're interfering with a classified operation. I'm protecting a child from people who tried to murder her, Marcus said. That's not interference. That's my duty. Captain, you don't understand the full situation. Anna is not just a witness. She's a valuable asset who needs to be protected by people with the proper clearance and resources. You mean she's a valuable asset who needs to be controlled by people who will use her for their own purposes, Marcus corrected. We've heard enough of your lies, Director. If you continue on your current course, you'll be committing treason, Director Harrison warned. You'll be putting national security at risk. The only thing at risk is your conspiracy, Marcus said. Anna has already told us about the nuclear launch codes and your plan to use them to start a war. The radio was silent for a long moment. When Director Harrison spoke again, his voice was cold and threatening. Captain Rodriguez, you have no idea what you're dealing with. If you don't return Anna to us immediately, the consequences will be severe. For who? Marcus asked. For us or for you when the truth comes out? For everyone, Director Harrison said, including Anna. She's carrying information that could destabilize the entire global security apparatus. If that information falls into the wrong hands, millions of people could die. Then maybe you shouldn't have given that information to a child in the first place, Marcus said. We didn't give it to her, Director Harrison replied. She stole it, and now she's using it to manipulate you into helping her escape. Anna grabbed the microphone back. I didn't steal anything, Director. You forced me to memorize classified information for 3 years. You used me as a living database because you thought I was too young and too powerless to be a threat. Anna, you're not thinking clearly. The trauma of your experience has affected your judgment. My judgment is perfectly clear, Anna said. Clear enough to know that you're going to keep trying to kill me until you succeed. Clear enough to know that the only way to stop you is to expose what you've done. And how do you plan to do that? Who's going to believe the word of a child against the testimony of senior government officials? Jennifer Walsh will believe me, Anna said, and she'll have the evidence to prove that Colonel Mitchell was framed. Jennifer Walsh is dead, Director Harrison said quietly. The words hit everyone on the boat like a physical blow. Anna's face went pale, and Marcus felt his heart racing. "You're lying," Anna said, but her voice lacked its previous confidence. "She died in a car accident 3 hours ago," Director Harrison said. "A very tragic accident on the way to the airport. She was apparently driving too fast and lost control of her vehicle." Marcus felt sick. "You killed her." "We didn't kill anyone, Captain. But people who get involved in situations beyond their understanding sometimes make poor decisions that lead to unfortunate consequences." "You're threatening us," Marcus said. "I'm warning you," Director Harrison replied. "The same fate could befall anyone who continues to interfere with this operation. Anna needs to be returned to proper custody, and the classified information she carries needs to be secured." Anna stared at the radio for a long moment, and Marcus could see her processing the implications of Walsh's death. Finally, she spoke. "Director, you've just made a critical error." "What error?" "You've shown me that you're willing to kill innocent people to protect your conspiracy," Anna said. "That means you're much more dangerous than I originally thought, and it means I can't afford to let you capture me alive." "Anna, don't do anything rash." "I'm not doing anything rash, Director. I'm doing what I should have done from the beginning. I'm going to make sure the whole world knows what you've done." Anna turned off the radio and looked at Marcus. "Captain, I need you to take us to the nearest ship with international communications capabilities. It's time to tell the world about the nuclear launch codes." Marcus realized that the stakes had just been raised dramatically. With Jennifer Walsh dead, they were now the only people who could expose the conspiracy. But that also meant they had become the primary targets for elimination. "Where do we go?" he asked. "Malta," Anna said. "There's a NATO facility there with secure communications and international oversight. If we can reach it, we can get this information to people who can act on it." As Commander Hayes set course for Malta, Marcus couldn't help but wonder if they would survive long enough to reach safety. Director Harrison had made it clear that the conspiracy was willing to kill anyone who threatened their operation. But looking at Anna, who stood at the bow of the boat with grim determination, Marcus knew they had no choice but to continue forward. Too many people had already died, and too much was at stake to give up now. The race to Malta had begun, and the fate of the world might depend on their ability to stay ahead of their pursuers. The journey to Malta should have taken 6 hours, but Marcus knew they didn't have that much time. The patrol boat was fast, but it wasn't designed for extended open ocean travel, and their fuel supply was limited. More importantly, Director Harrison's people would be mobilizing every resource at their disposal to intercept them before they could reach international waters. "We've got company," Commander Hayes announced, pointing to the horizon behind them. Marcus grabbed the binoculars and saw what appeared to be a military helicopter approaching at high speed. "That's not a rescue aircraft," he said grimly. "No," Anna agreed, studying the approaching helicopter. "That's a combat aircraft. They're not planning to capture us anymore." "What changed their mind?" "I did," Anna said. "When I told Director Harrison that I was going to expose the nuclear launch codes publicly, I became too dangerous to keep alive. The information in my head is more valuable than my life." The helicopter was closing fast, and Marcus could see weapons pods mounted on its sides. "They're going to try to sink us." "Not immediately," Anna said. "They'll try to disable the boat first. They want to recover my body if possible to make sure I'm really dead." "How do you know so much about their tactics?" "Because I've seen them use these tactics before," Anna said quietly, "on other people who became inconvenient." The helicopter was now close enough that Marcus could see the pilot and crew. They were wearing military uniforms, but something about their posture and equipment suggested they weren't regular military personnel. "Private contractors," Anna confirmed. "The conspiracy uses mercenaries for operations like this. If something goes wrong, it can't be traced back to official government channels." The helicopter swooped low over the patrol boat, and Marcus could see one of the crew members pointing some kind of device at them. "They're scanning us," he said. "Thermal imaging," Anna explained. "They're confirming how many people are on board and identifying our exact positions." The helicopter pulled away and took up a position about a quarter-mile ahead of them. Marcus could see that it was armed with missiles and heavy machine guns. "They're going to fire warning shots first," Anna said, "to try to get us to stop voluntarily." As if on cue, the helicopter fired a burst of machine gun fire into the water just ahead of the patrol boat. The message was clear: stop or be destroyed. "Keep going," Anna told Commander Hayes. "Don't slow down." "They'll sink us," Hayes protested. "They'll sink us anyway," Anna replied. "At least this way we have a chance to reach Malta before they can stop us." The helicopter fired another burst, this time closer to the boat. Marcus could see the crew preparing to fire missiles if they didn't comply. "There," Anna said, pointing to the horizon. "Do you see that?" Marcus looked where she was pointing and saw what appeared to be another vessel approaching from the direction of Malta. "Is that help?" "I hope so," Anna said. "But we need to survive the next few minutes to find out." The helicopter pilot apparently decided that warnings weren't working. Marcus saw a missile launch from the aircraft and streak toward their boat. "Hold on," he shouted, grabbing Anna and pulling her down as Commander Hayes threw the boat into a sharp turn. The missile impacted the water just behind them, sending up a massive column of water that drenched the entire boat. The explosion was close enough to throw them all against the deck, but the boat remained intact. "They're not trying to kill us yet," Anna said, wiping water from her eyes. "That was meant to disable our engines." "How many more chances do we get?" Marcus asked. "Not many," Anna replied. "They're running out of time too. The longer this takes, the more likely it is that someone will witness what's happening." The helicopter positioned itself for another attack, but before it could fire, the approaching vessel revealed itself to be a Malta-flagged naval patrol boat. Marcus could see armed personnel on deck and what appeared to be anti-aircraft weapons. "Maltese Navy," Commander Hayes said with relief. "We might actually make it." The helicopter pilot apparently reached the same conclusion. Instead of firing another missile, the aircraft turned and began heading back toward Italian waters. "They're retreating," Marcus said. "For now," Anna agreed, "but they'll be back, and next time they'll come with more firepower." The Maltese patrol boat pulled alongside them, and Marcus could see an officer with a megaphone preparing to communicate with them. "U.S. Coast Guard vessel, this is Captain Antonio Vella of the Maltese Navy. We have received reports of weapons fire in these waters. Are you in need of assistance?" Marcus grabbed his own megaphone. "Captain Vela, this is Captain Marcus Rodriguez, U.S. Coast Guard. We are carrying a witness to a conspiracy involving U.S. government officials. We need immediate protection and access to international communications." "Captain Rodriguez, you are in Maltese territorial waters. We need to board your vessel for inspection." "Understood, Captain. We welcome your protection." As the Maltese naval personnel prepared to board their boat, Anna grabbed Marcus's arm. "Captain, once we're on that ship, there's no going back. The moment I start talking to international authorities, the conspiracy will know that their secret is out." "And what will they do then?" "They'll accelerate their timeline," Anna said grimly. "If they can't silence me, they'll try to use the nuclear launch codes before they're changed." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "You're talking about starting a war." "I'm talking about preventing one," Anna said. "But only if we can get the information to the right people before the conspiracy can act." As the Maltese naval officers boarded their boat, Marcus realized that they were entering the final phase of their desperate race against time. The conspiracy had been exposed, but that only made them more dangerous. The next few hours would determine whether they could prevent a nuclear catastrophe, or whether their efforts would be too little, too late. Anna looked at the approaching Maltese officers and straightened her shoulders. Captain Rodriguez, it's time to tell the world what I know. Whatever happens next, at least we tried to do the right thing. Marcus nodded, knowing that she was right. There was no turning back now. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to give up when they were so close to success. The fate of the world now rested in the hands of an 8-year-old girl who had memorized nuclear launch codes, and 2 Coast Guard officers who had chosen to protect her. It was time to find out if that would be enough. The Maltese naval facility in Valletta was a fortress of gray stone and steel, built to withstand centuries of Mediterranean conflicts. As their small convoy arrived at the secure dock, Marcus could see armed guards taking positions around the perimeter. Captain Vela had taken their situation seriously, immediately placing Anna under protective custody and arranging for secure communications with international authorities. The girl who had spent days pretending to be a traumatized refugee was now at the center of what could become the most significant intelligence disclosure in decades. "The communications center is this way," Captain Vela said, leading them through corridors lined with military personnel. "We've established secure links with NATO headquarters, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the United Nations Security Council." Anna walked between Marcus and Commander Hayes, her small figure dwarfed by the military escort surrounding them. Despite the gravity of the situation, she maintained the same calm composure that had characterized her throughout their ordeal. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked. "The nuclear launch codes are scheduled to be changed in 18 hours," Anna replied. "If the conspiracy is going to use them, they'll have to act before then. And if they do act, then we'll have a nuclear incident that will be blamed on a foreign government," Anna said. "Probably Russia or China. The evidence will be fabricated, just like the evidence against Colonel Mitchell." They entered the communications center, where a team of technicians had set up multiple secure video links. On the screens, Marcus could see officials from various international organizations preparing to receive Anna's testimony. "Are you ready for this?" Commander Hayes asked Anna. "I've been ready for this for 3 years," Anna replied. "I just never had the opportunity before." Captain Vela introduced Anna to the assembled officials via video link. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the witness we discussed. She has information regarding unauthorized access to U.S. nuclear launch codes." A woman Marcus didn't recognize appeared on one of the screens. "This is Director Sarah Chen of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Young lady, We understand you have some very serious allegations to make. I don't have allegations, Anna said, moving to the microphone. I have facts. For 3 years, I was held by a group of people who used me to memorize classified information, including active nuclear launch codes. Can you prove these allegations? Anna began reciting a series of complex alphanumeric codes.